join me in welcoming showrunner, co-creator, writer, and executive producer Ryan J. Condal. I mean, firstly, congratulations on the incredible scope of this show, and I was really interested in how all of the different shows that you've worked on previously and all the different experience that you have in the industry, what's been the most valuable experience for you in coming together for a show like this that has so much complexities to the world building?
I mean, probably my last show, just because I did a lot of film writing early in my career, and that's great fun, but as feature screenplays, you tend to write them and then hand them over, and then they either make them or don't make them, but they don't tend to involve the writer much in the production of it. So the best training for making TV is making TV, and my first show was lucky enough, Colony, to do with Carlton Cuse, and that was essentially my television school, was the making of that show, because I kind of got dropped into it and had to keep my feet moving. But yeah, it's a smaller scale, but essentially problems are problems. They're just they're either big or small, but it tends to be the same thing, making a smaller TV show and then something like this.
I love that, and I feel like in season 1, the scope of the show just constantly expanded and built upon itself episode by episode. And so with everything that you built to in that amazing finale, how did that set the stage for the way that you're now building the scope of season 2?
Yeah, well, that was the place that, going back now 5 years, we always wanted to end the first season with, because we felt like that was the proper moment that sort of catalyzed everything else that followed. But really the question was, how do you build up to that moment and have it not only land as a moment of spectacle and shock and all that, but something truly rooted in the many years long character dynamics that we've been setting up since Rhaenyra and Alicent were children. And we felt like if we did that, and then that moment would land with the impact that I think it did, then we'd be off to the races. And at that point, people are invested, and I think that's my hope is that that's where we are right now. And as you've seen, this picks up a couple days later, and off we go to the next horrible tragedy.
Speaking of tragedy, I mean, there was some huge losses at the end of season 1 in terms of characters as well, and it feels like in the first couple of episodes of this season that it's really setting the stage for everything to come, and it's making a lot of the motivations come from different places for the characters. And so how has that loss really influenced the way that you're writing this season?
Yeah, I mean, it's a point of no return in a way. I mean, there are multiple points of no return, it feels like, in this show, because everything, it's one of these kind of entrenched conflicts. So you have these two sides that share a lot of common history that hate each other, and the hatred only gets worse as things go on and the tragedies pile up. And it felt like, Vagar killing Luke that's a big sea change in the way things are going to be looked at. And then what's the counterpunch? What's the counter response to that? And we just wanted to set all that stuff up so that all of the characters and understand where they're coming from and what makes them weak and strong and what they want and what they love, and then throw them into the mix and see how they respond.
And the scope of the show is amazing, and there's these really huge elements when you have scenes with dragon flying and a lot of the stunt work in the series, but it's so connected to audiences and so grounded, because at the end of the day, it's all about the intricacies of these characters. And so how do you set about creating that balance between larger than life, but also really vulnerable human emotions?
Yeah, I mean, that's the trick of the job. I mean, it's television ultimately, so you're telling these big stories, but often at intimate scale. I mean, I think the things that I'm proudest of in the show are often two characters in a room in conflict with one another, and because you're making, this show's 8 episodes, which amounts to probably about 9 hours of television, all end to end. You can't fill it all with dragons fighting each other. It has to be. You have to have these kind of stage stories, and those are the things that I think people engage with most at a character level, so that when the spectacle comes, if you've done your job right, you care about the characters involved with the spectacle, and that's why you take out this really emotional experience out of it.
I love that. Well, we're going to do something really fun today. You may have noticed we're at the point in the show where we have huge allegiances with Team Black and Team Green. So we have divided and conquered the cast for you today into their retrospective houses. So please join me in giving a huge welcome to Team Green: Olivia, Fabian, Tom, Ewan, Fia, and Matthew. Amazing. Well, thank you so much to all of you for joining us. We are going to have some submitted questions from the Zoom. We'll take some from the room, but I wanted to start with one of the pre-submitted questions for anybody who wants to jump in, which is, a lot of fans decided on their Black versus Green's allegiance after season 1. Do you think the events of season 2 could make anybody switch teams? I feel like you've got some thoughts.
I'm sure we've all got thoughts. Well, yeah, you'd hope so. You'd hope that it's the narrative is still malleable and people can swap and change. The idea is that, well, for me anyway, the idea is that you could watch one episode and be Team Black and then watch a different episode and be Team Green. But that's the excitement of it, the unpredictability of it.
Is that the same thought for the rest of you?
I mean, we're so biased at this point. We sort of bleed green, and we have loads of fun, so I can't possibly comment.
I feel like because we spend, the only time on set we spend is filming our own scenes, watching the show is going to be my first time seeing Team Black point of view even. Like, who knows, maybe I'll be like, oh, they're good. But yeah, to me, the show's just about us.
I love that. Well, we'd love to start by taking a couple of questions from inside the room with microphone runners on either side. Yes, just right over here.
Hi, we see Allison when we first meet her. She is very naive, but like a lot of the women in Games of Thrones, they turn out to be more vicious, I think, in some ways than the men. Talk about her growth through this, where she understands the power that she yields and how she manipulates it, even though a lot of people see her as weak, and how much fun it has been portraying that.
Yeah, I don't know, it's hard because I don't see her as vicious. I sort of think she's got a point a lot of the time, and she's sort of got to manipulate in order to get her point across, in order to sort of steer these men away from chaos and implosion. But yeah, season 1, you definitely saw her as a naive girl, and that indoctrination from her father has like set in, and she becomes this mini Otto Hightower in a way. And I think at the top of season 2, she's coming into her own power. She's the most powerful she's ever been. Her son sits on the Iron Throne, and I think it's sort of navigating her 2 full-grown sons who are beginning to dismiss her more and more.
I love that. Yeah, right here in the plaid shirt.
For Ryan, how, if at all, is George Martin involved now that you're going into the 2nd season?
Well, I mean, he wrote the book, so that way, he's always with us. Yeah, I mean, he's very busy. There's working in this massive universe. They want to make many and more shows about this world. So he's definitely aware of what's going on. I do keep in contact with him. But I think now that we're kind of off to the races with the show, and we've done a good job about rendering Fire and Blood into dramatic form, that I think we're operating on our own now in a good way. But George is always looms large in the background of House of the Dragon.
Thank you.
Right, we have one right down here at the front.
Hi, congratulations on the season. To those returning for season 2, can you tell us how different was the experience being back on season 2? as compared to those from season 1? For those who are returning to the show.
I think it's, and I hope I don't speak sort of like because they're here, but that like the new actors that have come are just so talented, and so it feels that although we miss Paddy so much, and like the actors that we lost, Bill Patterson and others, I mean, these guys have just come in and been like such a welcome addition, and they were already a welcome addition in the first season, and it's, you know, I'm so excited for everyone to see everything they've done. Yeah, to come.
That was one of the joys of joining later in season 1. It was like joining a family that already existed. There was no first date nerves from those guys, and so you didn't really feel it either. You made us feel very comfortable, and that I appreciate. Thank you.
And from the pre-submitted questions as well, Matthew, I'm going to come to you first for this one, which was coming off of such a well-received first season for the whole cast and crew, how much of an anxiety or fear comes from wanting to not just recreate the magic, but also finding new ways to elevate the story and process?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, it was so well received, but it is a sort of difficult second album, isn't it? And we don't want to disappoint anybody, and everybody in every department was working as hard as they could to make it as good as they could, because we don't want to let anyone down, and I think we're really excited for you to all have a look at it.
And how about for you, Ryan?
We sort of run from one thing to the other in this show, so it's like, oh yeah, there was a first season. It wasn't just all one thing that ran into itself. But no, I mean, I've said, I think the thing, my anxiety in season 1, I don't know if you guys shared the same, was, is anybody going to watch the show? And because you're following the Beatles and the most successful television show of all time. How do you follow that? You don't. You just try to do something. You try to make something good that stands on its own. And I think that was a challenge in season 1, and I think there are less nerves going into season 2. But now we also have to like kind of outdo ourselves, because that's the expectation set before us. So how do you do that? But thankfully, I have this lovely team Green to do that and make us all look good.
Are you team black or are you team green? That's the question.
Who's moderating this?
I will ask you the same question when the others are here. Great. Do we have any? Yes, right here. Oh, there's a microphone just coming to you.
Me?
Yeah.
You are, thank you. You are portraying such richly complex characters in a very complicated story. And my question is, how do you keep track of where you are when you're working on this and presenting to us?
Very good continuity people who tell us pretty much where we are at each point. You know, and I just think that you can always go to the monitor and you'll find Tess there, who's our script supervisor, chewing gum, and she'll tell us exactly what's just happened, what's about to happen, because you shoot it completely out of order, so it's very useful. And just hope that you've not like completely forgotten that you're supposed to be out of breath, which I didn't do in episode 3.
How about for you, Tom?
For me, I think it's useful to, in terms of knowing your whole character arc, it's always useful for me to have some form of timeline, so to read the scripts and take out those sort of landmark moments that are gear shifts in your character's progress. And yeah, just to kind of remember where those are and how they shift you, and what decisions, how that informs your decisions as you play the character. But also just kind of just rolling with the scenes, that just being present in the scenes, it kind of does its own job if you just let it happen. But yeah, without the help of Tess and our script supervisors and continuity team and all, we'd be lost in the woods somewhere.
I love that. Yes, right over here.
Talking about massive universe that George Martin created and that we all brought to screen, why do you think after so many years and even decades, those stories hold audience so captivated by it? Like now we're living in a streaming world where we have so many options, yet everybody's coming back to it and there are massive fan base.
I mean, they're just incredibly well crafted stories and characters, and I think it always goes back to the characters for me with that world. And I think if you were to move slightly beyond that, I would just say that the world is so textural and well realized that it feels real. I mean, and often, even reading Fire and Blood, which again is a fake history book, which is George's words, not mine. It's a in-world history written about this, which could be very dry, but it's incredibly engaging because it's so textural. And I think because it's this is no secret, but Fire and Blood, or this particular story, is based on the Anarchy, which is a famous and very bloody conflict that happened in English medieval history. And I think those little touch points that connect to real history make it feel real versus coming into a world that's entirely fantastical and entirely made up from whole cloth. It does feel like it actually happened in a lot of ways, particularly to me who lives every day. But I mean, I don't know. I think that's it, and that helps inform all of the sets and the banners and the costumes. But I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the first season was shot over a long period of time during circumstances that the whole world felt. We were kind of plunged into the unknown with the pandemic, and so I think it's brilliant that HBO were able to give back a world to the audience that they did know. Instead of being surrounded in this world of unknown, you know a Targaryen's going to be a Targaryen, a Baratheon's going to be a Baratheon, and I think it is that familiarity that during uncertain times, it was certainly something that audience members could hold on to.
I saw you nodding there, Fia. Was there anything you wanted to add to that as well?
I was just thinking, that's a really good point, Ewan.
Yeah, we'll go right here.
Hello. So the fan, I guess, interaction and reaction to the show, they're quite intense. How much, if at all, does that affect where you go in the story or how you portray your character? I guess that's for everybody out there who wants to speak on that.
I mean, you have to try and not let it affect your performance, because it can be, a lot of fan theories are really sort of intoxicating and fun, but then they become infectious, and so you have to sort of, we've got beautiful scripts from Ryan and Sarah and the team, and we sort of have to be loyal and monk-like to the text,
And for you, Fabian, you've said in the past that your character has kind of a darkness to him. Do you feel like that's coming to the foreground even more this season?
How much have you guys seen? I'll just scream if you cross the line. Go ahead. I can't remember who it was. Someone said to me at the end of last year, I think it was Sarah, was like, I hope you're looking forward to being the most hated character on television. So let's see. Well, I do think, I'm not going to speak anymore. I'm not
No, I mean, I think Cole is a character that's always fascinated me because he's one of these people that, he's rare for this world because I think he's a self-made man. He sort of got to where he got based on his talents and not, whose son he was or where he was born.
The Nepo babies.
Yeah, that's right. All of you Nepo babies in here. And he's embraced that, and he wears this like white cloak, like it's a millstone around his neck. He's quite proud of it, but it's also this burden that he carries. And I think, and look, whatever you think of Cole, I think he's a deeply interesting character in that way. And definitely now that we've moved from peacetime into wartime, it really applies, I think, a very interesting pressure to his character. And I love where the show's taken him, what Fabian's done with the role. So I'm excited for you guys to see it.
That's why Ryan's the writer.
And for you, Tom, your character was reluctant to step into a leadership role, and now we're getting to see what it looks like as he tries to find his footing. What has that journey been like for you?
Yeah, it's been kind of exciting to sort of work it out with Egon as he's been working out. I think it was important to me to find somewhere to go with Egon, and we see him at the start of season 2 with a little bit more of a spring in his step. He's sort of walking 2 inches higher than he would have usually been. He's stepped into these kingly shoes with enthusiasm, I think. We see a little shift in him at the end of season 1, and with a small minor hiccup with Rhaenys, but we'll ignore that. We're on to greener pastures, and I think he's kind of, no pun intended, and we're, thank you, and we're just sort of seeing where that goes, and I mean, the guy's riddled with insecurities and vulnerabilities and everything that kind of fractures a person, so we'll see how long he holds together.
And speaking of insecurities, you and your characters had a lot of insecurities. It seems like he's someone who's always struggled to kind of find his footing even within his own family. How do you feel like that's going to influence him further in season 2?
I think, it's that drive that he possesses. You know, he was the only kid in the family who wasn't given a dragon egg growing up. You know, he was on the back foot, and there's this dynamic that as the person grows, so does the hatchling, and they're very much extensions of each other. And Aemond was different. He didn't get an egg, and he was bullied for being different. You've got the oldest, baddest, hardened dragon in the known world in Vhagar, who's like so enormous she can't fit within the confines of any castle wall, and that's similar to Aemond. He can't fit in anywhere either, and so they're able to identify with each other. That idea of standing in the face of adversity, a 10-year-old claiming this behemoth, it's a tremendous feat of courage, and this drive is very evident in that. And going into season 2, you're going to see that drive continue, and it's going to be scary.
Yes, right down here. Yeah, just in a big blazer.
Hi, this question's for Ryan. This show is in epic proportions. What were the 2 most challenging sequences that you did?
In season 2? Well, I can't talk about those yet.
Battle scene.
Yeah, we have 2 sequences that we did this year that are, I think, the biggest thing certainly I've ever been a part of, and certainly the show as well. That kind of outstripped just the size and scale of anything we did in season 1. And some people here in this room might have participated in one or more of them. But I'm excited for you guys to see them.
And we have a pre-submitted question for you, Olivia, which is, what were some of the new challenges you faced by giving life to this new arc of your character this season?
God, what to do with one's face when you're portraying different kinds of grief and trauma throughout, and how to play those varying levels of sadness. Would you say, being vague?
I think you're underplaying your skills and abilities. No, I mean, I think Allison gets put through the ringer, I think, this year, and is really forced to kind of come to reckon with the fact that the thing that she was sort of groomed to do since she was 14 years old by her father, which is to lift up the greatness of her own house. She's done that, and now she's had a son, and who's the king's son, and put him on the throne, and in doing so has diminished her own power, because the minute Aegon wears the crown, Alicent's power as queen is reduced, because she's no longer the queen of the Seven Kingdoms. She's now the Dowager Queen, the queen that used to be. And I think she probably didn't realize in the moment how much of a power, even though it's a subtle thing, how much of a power shift that is. And I think very much, I don't know how you saw it, but I think very much this season, so much of what Alicent experiences is reckoning with this thing that she was sort of made to do her entire life. Did it, accomplished it, and then how it's landed on her, and what that means.
Yeah, she's sort of like been forced into an early retirement in a way.
Yeah, she's.
So what do I do to keep active?
She's taken up bread making.
We're to the south of France.
Nothing like that.
She's having a lot of baths.
No, Olivia's brilliant, and it's a her and Allison and Rhaenyra's arcs take very different directions this year. But this was a hard task that we laid before her, and she did a brilliant job with it. I'm very, very, very proud of the work, and excited for you guys to see it.
Thank you. I wasn't fishing.
I love that. Well, in all great battles, we have to hear from both sides, so we are going to kick you guys out to bring Team Black, unless any of you have changed allegiances, and then you can stay.
No chance.
They're going to be coming to there. So please join me in welcoming Team Black, Emma, Matt, Steve, Hugh, Harry, and Beverly. And thank you so much for being here.
It's good to get rid of the riff-raff. No.
Thank you all for joining us. And while everyone's getting seated, I wanted to jump into one of the pre-submitted questions for you, Ryan, which is, with no time jumps this season, how did you choose to structure the new season, and was it easier or harder without those time loop markers?
I mean, it was a great challenge in structuring season one just because of that, and really it was less the sort of figuring out the time jumps as they've come to be called, but it's like, how do you cover 20 years of story and history in 10 episodes of a brand new television show and expect everybody to follow it. So I think in season one, really up until the very end, the episodes sort of happen in these discrete timelines. So the traditional tools that we rely on as storytellers, where you have a cliffhanger at the end of episode 2 and then you pick up in episode 3, you could do a little bit of that, but because they were happening in these, again, discrete time zones, it was harder to lean on that. So these stories had to be kind of complete as formed. And now in season 2, it's very much, I think this is traditional serialized storytelling where it's all happening in real time and we kind of move from episode to episode. And it's exciting because it's a way of keeping momentum moving and building excitement and all those things. So yeah, this was, there were challenges definitely to season 2, but I think season 1 was a particular narrative pretzel that I did that, and I don't know that we need to do that again.
The phrase narrative pretzel is a great one for the show. I'd love to open it up to all of you. Yeah, right down here at the front, and then we'll go to you, sir, next. Yeah, right down here. Thanks.
So music in Westeros is very important, especially like the score of certain scenes, but is there a song for you guys as actors that really helps you get into the mindset of each of your characters when you have to come back into them?
Yeah, probably. What was it?
No, I was going to say, for me, it depends on the scene. There's no one song that would make me feel like Corlys. But if I'm doing an emotional scene with Eve, then I might look for a sad love song or something.
Sad?
When I say sad, something, deep possibly, but I don't think I have a theme particularly. I don't know about the other guys.
I made a whole playlist. Oh, it's so loud. I made a whole playlist this season, but it always started with My Power, Beyonce and Need Ya, which was a really good way to start the day.
I love that. Yeah, right here in you had your hand up before.
Can you talk about the process of using such specific costumes and hairstyling and props in order to shape your characters, not only physically, but I guess also psychologically and emotionally?
Harry. All right. No, I mean this season it's just, I always say this, but it is just genuinely like bigger and better. Like the way the costumes were done, like especially this year, it just felt so immersive. Like as soon as I put that costume on, I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, damn, like, I'm Jace now. Like this is real. But
we all know that, Harry.
No, yeah, obviously not loving myself, but like in a character perspective, didn't mean it to come out like that. Anyway, no, but yeah, it was very, very immersive. Especially the whole Winterfell cloak stuff. That was really, really cool. It just felt really surreal. And yeah, no, costumes-wise, props, like it's so in detail. Like there's scrolls that you can pick up in any room and it will be written out in Valyrian or something like that. It's just so unbelievably detailed, and little things like that, when you step on set, it just helps your experience getting into character and it makes it so much easier. But yeah, that's what I would say.
And for you, Matt?
I can't top that. That's it. Yeah. It's just rich and detailed, and yeah, we're really lucky to have the brilliant people that are working on those other departments do such wonderful, fantastic work.
The next question we have is from Zoom, which is for you, Ryan. What is the most complex part of adapting such an overarching story?
I mean, I think there's nothing unique necessarily about this show versus other shows that are multi-POV, multi-point of view. It's just, there's so many wonderful characters in the show, all of which have their own 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional stories. It's how do you keep a narrative moving forward, tell character stories within, but and service everybody in a way that feels deeply rich and realized, and have them cross and interact with each other. Sometimes when they're not literally crossing and interacting. And something I'm particularly proud of this season that we found in the sort of post-production process is, as everybody knows, Alicent and Rhaenyra are, even though they spent much of season 1 together, they're now apart, and they're literally on different islands, and they don't interact with each other. But in the editing, we found ways to connect those characters. If you see Alicent going through something particularly deep and emotional, and you cut to Rhaenyra, there is a kind of filmmaking connection there. And I don't know. I think it's the dimensionality of the story, and just trying to keep all those plates spinning with a cast of fantastic actors from top to bottom. You want to give them all all the screen time they deserve.
Absolutely, and we have a question for you, Emma, that was submitted in advance, which is, what has it been like playing full seasons of your character, and did watching your character's younger version help you anyway for season 2?
I feel so shy. Like, I think we were just doing something else, and then I so wasn't expecting to walk into like an auditorium of people. That's just why I hope that I would never have to pick up this microphone. But anyway, it's been really nice actually coming back to the show. I think I'm I like to be quite a conscientious worker, so understanding the job description better really suits my conscience. I think we're very lucky, right? A lot of the work of an actor, I think, is to sort of fill in the unseen time. I think that's like a lot of the labour. The labour of love is to fill in the unseen time, and in this case, I can actually just watch it on my telly. So it's it's like lovely, very unusual to have a sort of character grounding that you can literally watch and return to. I've sort of said this before, but I had never, I suppose, shared a character with another actor of a different age before. I'd never sort of done that timeshare. But I think it does a lovely job of sort of physicalizing, externalizing the sort of the split self. Like I definitely, when I think of myself as a younger person, I definitely sort of perceive myself from the outside. I sort of as though they were now a person I could have a conversation with and sort of advise or something. And so I just thought that like sort of structurally that was sort of beautifully imagined here, where you can see the younger self from the outside and see sort of the vision in time, the vision of maturity or something.
Did you guys watch the first season again, back to back? Did anybody do that? It's not a trick question. I'm not.
I've never seen it.
But
So sorry, Ryan.
It's pretty good.
I will watch it when it's all over, maybe in like 10 years' time. I'm really looking forward to it. I hear it's amazing.
I want to produce that reality show.
Is that the same with all your projects? You can't.
I'm just completely allergic, and I'm so disgusted by seeing myself on screen. I can never do it.
Okay, great. Right here in the dress at the front.
Hi. Without getting into specifics or spoilers, unlike Game of Thrones, this is a book that you can look up and read, or it's over, it's not ongoing. So you could find out how your characters' journeys may end. Have you taken a peek at that, or is it more helpful to you as performers to not look ahead at that?
Well, I chose not to. We were given the book. I chose not to look at the book at all not because of spoilers, but simply because they're two different medium. And do you know what I mean? And I didn't. What happens is you read the book and you go, oh my god, my character does this, is fantastic. And then Ryan goes, no, he's not going to do that. And you go, in the book. So I didn't want to fall in love with what was on the page. So every so often fans will tell me. And I'm like, well, that doesn't guarantee anything because, he's devious. So we might not always stick to the book. So for me, I felt it better to just play what was in the script rather than what I would read anywhere else.
And Matt, for you, how has the loss of his brother influenced Damon in season 2?
God, I think that's everything. I think it's all about, Emma mentioned in the sort of meeting we had earlier, the kind of grief is the great sort of catalyst of the season in many ways. And I think that, everything is about the death of his brother, really. Every single action is often related to him, and I think it sort of allows us to glimpse a version of Damon which is slightly more exposed and honest, and I think he just misses him. Doesn't really know how to communicate that. It's quite simple, really. So he's like a fucking crazy person, which is great. But yeah, and I miss Paddy as well. So it's life and art imitating itself.
One of the questions we have coming in from Zoom is, you all look so different without the various wigs. Does it help you to retain some kind of anonymity out in the world?
Yes.
No.
Yes. I never get recognized without my wig.
That's because you're wearing the wrong wig.
Do we have any more in the room? Yeah, right here.
Hi. So as we saw in the first episode, clearly there's a lot of emotional catastrophe going on. So when you got the scripts for season 2, what were some of the things you were excited to explore and discover about your characters on a very emotional, internal level?
I mean, for me personally, I was excited about having that mother-son moment with Rhaenyra. Because we don't really get to see them two have any moments like that in season 1. And to watch them connect, on the script and then finally on screen, it was just really nice because it's just very real, and obviously they've both been caught up in various things, and when they finally just sort of leap into each other's arms, I just thought that was a really beautiful moment. I don't think I can say anything else about that.
You guys played it so wonderfully. It was really
Thank
touching.
you.
There was a lot of debate as to whether we wanted Jace to actually say words in that scene or whether we wanted to play it silently, and I sort of stuck with it because I felt like it was good to sort of see him come and try to make this very professional report and then break in the middle of it, and it still gets me. I watch it and it still gets me. So well done, both of you.
Thank you.
Stand. No, we won't go down here.
Let's get to the most important question about the dragons. So to the cast who have seen riding the dragon, can you talk about what is that like? And Ryan, can you tell us, I think there are how many new dragons in this season?
I think I promised 5, and I think it's still correct. But yeah, so I said 5 a year and a half ago, and I think I'm sticking to it. So 5 new ones that you haven't seen before, I think. But I've never ridden a dragon, so you guys have to speak to that.
I mean, you did all of that this year. Come on.
Yeah, go on.
I did. I was never off my dragon. It's just exactly like riding a dragon in real life. It's desperately uncomfortable in armour, and I kept shouting, "Bring me more cushions! Bring me more padding! I need more padding!" You're just so uncomfortable. You're in this kind of position with your legs up under your feet. You're wearing this kind of tin can on your head, rocking you back. At one point, I was like this, and they finished the scene. The director shouted "cut," and I was still like this. And then, is anyone going to let me down? Let me down, please.
It was horrendous.
No, it wasn't horrendous. It was amazing. I loved every second of it. I can't wait to do more. I felt rather proud of myself that I came off it alive.
Bethany got to ride a dragon for the first time this season.
Yeah, I do. The bit that I found the most exciting was that you get to see what they've like animated already before you get on the dragon. So you get to see what it's going to look like, obviously like a cartoon version of you, and then you get on, and it's like a book and bronco, and it's so cool. And what made me laugh was that it always comes down to a guy with a wind machine. Like, it doesn't matter how much budget you have, how much CGI, there's always going to be a guy with a wind machine, and you're going to be upside down. Like, it was just the most fun. But I love the days on the book.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a great lead into the next question we have from Zoom, which is, in Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, characters possess power in several different ways. What's the most powerful in season 2, being a dragon rider or being politically savvy?
Put your hands together. You're both, isn't it? I mean, you're both, aren't you? Yeah?
It's best to be both.
Yeah.
Best of both.
Yeah. I think you're pretty politically savvy as well, aren't you?
I'm definitely politically savvy, and I'm a dragon rider.
Yeah.
Tied equal, no?
Yeah, I'd say so.
What's the question? Is there powers of... Yes.
What's more powerful?
What's more powerful? Well, they're both. It's a brilliant question. And that's the answer.
I mean, Emma, I feel like you channel power in such an interesting way because it's quite a steely interior disposition. You know, you're playing a character who doesn't come in as the loudest person in the room and yet wields such great power over everyone. How did you set about creating that?
I don't know. I suppose I was interested in a character who never expected to find herself in this position. She doesn't start series 1 expecting to be heir, and she has a personality that is built by being sort of in some way marginal, like still, you know, deeply privileged royal family, but like, but she's sort of she gets quite a lot of freedom because she's not expected to take on responsibility. She's not expected to be a ruling person. And I guess I was really interested in the sort of total dissolution of the self that comes with being told suddenly that actually it's you, and like suddenly being centered when you had all of your sort of tenacity, your humor comes from being sort of decentered. And so I wanted to see what it was like to watch a person try to put on power, and also, I guess, witness how that's then received by people around her, you know, to varying degrees of success. Like, I was sort of imagining, especially in season 1, like, what it would be like to take on like walk into an incredibly high-powered job, having never done it. I mean, I wanted to bring imposter syndrome into fantasy, I suppose, and see, because presumably that would be honest, and and then I suppose by series 2, that's trepidation has become quite fatigued. I think she is sort of tired of the softer approach, that sort of endless like double think, a desire to do something and having to choose a path of sort of manipulation or sort of careful persuasion so that you don't watch people's sort of prejudice get weaponized against you. I think that's starting to like run thin by series 2.
It's a great answer. And for you, Matt, Ryan was talking earlier about the difference in season 2 not having the time jumps. How has that made it a different approach for your performance with your character?
Not having time jumps? I don't know really. How's it made it different? Yeah. Well, look, I suppose there's a more condensed period that you see it, but I mean, you see a lot happen to Damon in quite a shorter period of time. But it's just like a more condensed whirlwind, really. It's still a vortex of chaos and vengeance and madness and sort of weird signs all coupled together. Sort of squashed into a tiny 2-week ball of madness with Simon Russell Beale. He plays Sir Simon Strong, who is amazing, by the way. Yeah, so it was good. It was good. It was yeah, it allowed for a good deal of unraveling.
I love that. Yeah, we have one more here again.
Is the mic passing stressing anybody else out?
I live for it though.
It's incredibly efficient.
Is he gonna get there in time?
So my question kind of goes into the relationship between Damon and Rhaenyra, which I think in season 1 was a very massive arc. We kind of get when they're starting out, Rhaenyra is young, all the way up to where we are now, which I'm curious to hear how that relationship has developed now that Viserys has died, and how it maybe is no longer as stable without that third prong in their relationship.
Yeah, I think the fact that they can't communicate really proves an obstacle in the series. I suppose, once again, it's kind of the workings of grief. I don't know that either of them are able to find solace actually with each other in this, in the loss of Viserys, in the loss of Viserys subsequently. I don't think that they can share that. I don't feel that Damon can share his experience of losing his brother. Yeah, and so I think there's a dislocation taking place. Do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think they can't unburden themselves from this sort of shadow. And the way he died was so horrendous. They were right there next to it, seeing it all sort of him decompose. And I think, there's this sort of elephant in the room constantly that they refer back to, and they sort of weaponize against each other. And and it's quite uncomfortable for them both. But I don't know, like anything, I personally believe that there is a very deep sense of love between the two of them, which is challenged in many quarters, but it's tested because it's like, I don't know, it's like he feels unaccepted by her, I think. And, reacts as Damon reacts.
And I'm going to start with the rest of you on the cast, which is, what were some of the challenges faced while filming this season?
I think it was sad that we weren't all together so much as we had been in season 1. I mean, it wasn't sad like crying into a pillow every night sad, but it was, it was nice, that feeling of camaraderie in the face of awful shit that was going on. It was very nice to feel that we were all coming together, and this season we were more separated and going through, I mean, you guys have talked a lot about chinks in your relationship, and the same was going on with us in a different context, but that was because he had always been he'd always been my niece's absolute rock, and that starts to sort of crumble a little bit, starts to crumble a lot, and that's very, that was a big challenge for me.
Was that the same for you, and not getting to film as many scenes together?
No, not at all. No, yes, it was, because I feel with Corliss, there are only two places where he is completely comfortable and himself. One is at sea, and the other is alone with his wife. That's the times when you see him truly not having to, when he's in the small castle, he has to put on up front, and he feels he's better than everybody there. But in those two situations, he's completely honest. She is his rock. And in season 2, things that he did I'm going to use that word again. Things that he did in the past, he has to confront them, and he has to deal with them. And they put this sacred relationship under strain for him. And I think for the first time he's aware that he could possibly lose this precious thing, his wife. So it was an interesting journey.
Definitely. The next one we have from Zoom is for you, Matt, which is, Damon is such an incredibly complex character. Is there one particular aspect of his personality you really love delving into?
Yeah. Loads of them. Absolute madman. No, do you know what I quite like about Damon? Is that he flies by the beat of his own drum, and that I think like his moral compass is his own, and I admire that about him. I admire his conviction in his mistakes and his actions, for better or worse. He does them anyway. And he's like, "Fuck the world, man. This is how I'm gonna roll," you know. And I'm like, yeah, fair play, Jeff. So that I like feeling that spirit of chaos and bravado and sort of, it's like walking on a piece of glass. You know, it's yeah, it's that. I like the tightrope that he's defined for himself.
Yes, right here, and then we'll come to you next.
We're very interested in your character building. I have two questions regarding that. I don't know whether any of you subscribe to this, but these are such mythic characters. I wonder whether each one of you had chosen an astrological sign for your character. And the second question is...
I made them do that.
Good on you. So, and I'd like to know what they were. And the second question is, how do the women feel, what were the strongest female qualities, Me Too aspect of your characters in this complex world?
So that's on us. I think that, first of all, I didn't choose a star sign for Bela, but I wish I had, and maybe I'll think about that and I'll decide on more. But I think that we get to see the women really step up to the plate in this season, and you know we've seen that all the way through. But now, specifically in a time of such crisis and such war, we see them being the decision makers. And I think for Bela, she's taken so many of her influences from Rhaenys because she spent such a long time with her, and that's where she grew up, really, when this one was away, off at sea. She spent all of her time at Driftmark with Rhaenys, and that's the figurehead that she kind of aspires to be and has learnt to behave from. So I think she takes all of her influences from her.
Anyone else got a star sign?
I have. I mean, it's such a lovely, interesting question, and I didn't.
I didn't.
Just when you said that,
yeah, did you?
I would say immediately. I knew in my heart. I would say she's a Scorpio.
Also Scorpio. Yeah.
Also Scorpio.
I am a Scorpio in life, but Bela's definitely a Scorpio. Yeah.
Well, because I would say Scorpio men, chaos. Scorpio women, mother. All the greatest mother figures in my life have been Scorpio. And I feel like that's an energy that Rhaenys certainly feels like she carries in this season, especially just holding everybody and all the chaos.
Maybe that's what it was, that connection between us. It was that kind of Scorpio energy. No, but you know what I mean? There was a sense of that.
Yeah.
Motherly. There was. You tapped into something of that.
Yeah, something.
Interesting question.
It's a good. I hadn't either, but the minute you said it, I thought, well, he's definitely a fire sign. And then I thought, well, he's Aries, which happens to be what I am. But it makes sense.
The game's not just say your star sign.
These people have misunderstood the game.
Yeah. And his favourite colour is no. But also, to hear. How did you guess? But, to hear Eve say Scorpio makes so much sense because I once was in a relationship with a Scorpio. Stories. But that surfeit, is that the right word? Excess of passion is evident with this couple, I think. So it makes sense. So thank you for that question. That was an excellent question. Take notes from this lady.
I love that. Yeah, we had one right here.
Hi, my question is for Bethany and Stephen. As you know, Games of Thrones has a huge Black fan base, hence them Thrones and, you know, the show with the little dragons and all these other cute things that Black Twitter comes up with. But in the original House of Thrones, the Black characters were more like Black background dancers, and in this, you get to be royalty, you get to be in the think of things. Talk about why that is important, other than, honestly, the fact that you're brilliant actors and that you have the talent, but it's important to see that in this type of environment, why that is important.
It was so important to me to be in a franchise of this scale, because I didn't get to see that when I was younger. And not that only young people watch these kinds of shows, not at all, but when you're that age, that's when you start to develop what your dreams are going to be and what your aspirations are going to be. And if you don't see it, you can't believe it. And I really wanted to be in something like this so that there were people who had somebody to dress up like. And I know that might sound really basic, but those are the things that you get to enjoy when you're in these kinds of fandoms. And it's one like privilege that we just didn't have. We didn't have anybody to dress up like. We didn't, and it's like the bit of joy that you get to do when you go to these conventions and things. And so even if just for that, if one person gets to see it and go, wow, that's somebody who's like me, it was worth it.
Absolutely, I would second that. I think people, if you're used to being represented, representation doesn't mean as much because you're used to it. When I was a kid in the dark ages, and there would be science fiction programs, and there were very few, if any, people who looked like me, looked like us. Me and my friends used to joke about it. This thing's set in the future and we're not there. What are they going to do to us? But I can't tell you the amount of people who have contacted me, and not just people of color, who have contacted me through social media or through letters and said how pleased they are to see this representation in this world. Because exactly what Bethany said, it is important for you to feel like you are something, that you are part of it, that you have a contribution to make. And so I think it's vital. And certainly, some of you may be aware that there was some negative response when I was first announced. I have since then had people sort of go, yeah, I was a bit dubious about you, but actually you did a great job and well done. But I think we are living in a world in which everybody's here. And I think everybody has a right to be represented. People of different races, people of different genders, people of gender identity and so forth. That is the world I think we should be striving for. There are voices out there that would argue against that. But I think those of us who want to see that world, I think history is on our side.
I want to thank you all for such thoughtful and in-depth answers to everything. So thank you so much, and thank you to all of you for coming out today. You're in for such a treat for the rest of the season.